In this episode of the Business of Real Estate podcast with Lynn Hoffmann and Eric Johnson, we're joined by Matthew Regan, co-team lead of the Regan Irish Associates team, and we're talking all things team building. So Lynn, this is pretty good because you work a lot closely with Matthew and his team. So
and I was part of the building of it, joining it together.
It was a big thing, two teams coming together, but Matthew, you built quite a team yourself, and then you joined the Alex Irish team. But first, let's talk a little bit about your background. Like, how long have you been in real estate, just so that everybody knows where you're coming from, and when did you start building a team?
Yeah. Okay. Well, bunch of answers to that. I kind of got my start at 12 years old. I was bored one summer. I watched my dad do real estate for a long time, and in the confines of our garage was an old lawnmower. I dusted it off and I started a lawn cutting business. And from 12 to 17, I'd cut people's grass. Now on the surface, you think, all right, young guy, machine, people need a service. But what nobody saw was February. So what do you think of in February? You don't exactly think of cutting grass. So imagine there's a knock at your door and this young kid is there. There's 2 feet of snow on the ground and you're going, who the heck is this? And I say to you, Eric, Lynn, I'm getting my client list ready for the spring cleanups when the flowers are in bloom and the birds are chirping and the grass is growing. Do you have anybody to do your spring cleanup and your grass cutting? So what I began to learn is, pounding the pavement works if you've got something to offer. And who doesn't want to think about the birds and spring in the middle of February? Mm-hmm. And I began to build, unbeknownst to me, a client list that would serve me well when I went out and got my real estate license. At the age of 19, I dropped out of U of T, got my license, and didn't look back. The thing I always question realtors on, and I hope your audience, if there's anybody listening or watching this, I hope this will relate to them, is why build a team at all? Teams have really become a bit of a catchword or a catchphrase in the past 10 years or so, but you have to go back into the brokerage business from 40, 50, 60 years ago. Really, a modern day team is just what a brokerage used to be.
Yeah.
Now, I'll put my hand in the air and confess, I had no idea I needed a team. I didn't really know what a team consisted of. But my dad always said one thing. He said, when you get your real estate license, make sure you run it like a business. And this is something that has stuck with me 22 years later, that when I look around the industry, I see a lot of realtors. In fact, I don't know what the numbers are lately, but in the tens of thousands of realtors in this province. And I just kind of think, I don't know if that's the right way to go about doing this business. So what happened, I got my license from 19 till about 30 years old. I was like a chicken with my head cut off. I didn't know which direction I was going. There was very little systems, very little organization, but boy, I made a lot of money. And I don't say that begrudgingly. I say that to keep in perspective that this is a wonderful industry, but it sucked my time dry. I'd go to bed at night not knowing what I'd had for breakfast that morning. And I think if you're in the business to make a lot of money, I think your priorities are wrong. I think if you go about this business intelligently with a bit of a recipe for growth, the money will just come. So what ended up happening is, and I remember it very specifically, we had so many listings and we had so many sellers wanting open houses, I couldn't service it. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, from the servicing side, it was just falling apart. Servicing was never my strong suit. I was good at the negotiations and quite frankly liked that. So it wasn't until I saw a specific flaw in myself that I realized I might need to bring somebody in who's just better at doing my weakness than I am, and hopefully enjoys it. And that started the building blocks of growing a team.
And so that initial team, what did you start with an admin? Did you start with agents? Like, what was that process for you?
Yeah, it definitely started with an admin. So I think to build off your question, if there's a listener out there, if something's resonated with you where you're run off your feet or perhaps you're doing too much of the mundane. Now, I'm just going to define my version of mundane because I don't mean to disparage certain elements of the day-to-day. What I mean by mundane is mundane for me. So what might be mundane for me might not be mundane for somebody else.
Yep.
Paperwork was not my strong suit. Love marketing, that's not where I make my money. So what I had to do is I hired an admin that loved those things. This person, Tammy, brought incredible systems to our team. I remember coming in a few months later and I said, what's that on your computer? And it looked like gibberish to me in spreadsheets. And she goes, well, that's your business. I go, what is happening here, in the most amazing way?
Yeah.
And I think the takeaway is hire somebody who's really good at systems and operations and pay them well. If you think you're going to get somebody part-time and your business is going to go to the moon, I'm sorry, that's probably not going to happen. If you've got somebody really great at their job and you're paying them below what they're worth, I'm sorry, someone's going to come along and take them, or they're just never going to feel satisfied. So hire great talent.
Yeah.
It started for me on the admin side and then morphed into a marketing person. Pay them above average wages and make sure they're good at what they do.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think I was going to say that's something that when I'm coaching agents, is I always start with the admins, and I look at them and say, as a realtor, you should look at yourself as, $200 to $500 an hour type of talent. And so if I can pay somebody 20 some dollars an hour to do a certain task, I shouldn't be doing it. I should be giving it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to be the moneymaker. Right?
Yeah.
So it is supposed
Yeah.
to be that, have that person take over. And as you said, don't cheap out on it. Because to me, the other thing is, if I'm overwhelmed, I can bring in somebody, and let's say, I say to everybody, look, let's say you start at $20 an hour, right? 40 hours a week, that's $3,200 a month. If that gets me, say, 2 extra deals, and I'm going to lowball it here. I'm going to say we only get $10,000 in commission. So I just made $20,000 in commission, but it only cost me $3,200. But if I brought in an agent who got me those two extra deals, but I had a 50-50 split, that cost me 10 grand.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's a lot better economically to bring on an admin.
Yeah, and what you've done a good job outlining is leverage. So I like to give an example of a publicly traded company. So when I wake up in the morning and I get to work and I'm working on my business, not in my business, but on it, I like to think of myself as a publicly traded company, and my shareholders are everybody that works in my company as well as my paying customers. So I've got admin, I've got marketing, I've got COO, I've got a direct business partner in Alex, I've got agents that we help, and then I've got my paying customer. They're my shareholders. So today when I make a decision, how will that benefit the shareholder? And if I can create leverage within the business that affords my agents more time, my assistants to be better prepared for us to churn out more marketing, better marketing, then we all begin to win. But I think, coming back to your point, Eric, on $20 an hour work, and I don't mean it, again, I keep apologizing, I don't mean it disparagingly, you got to outsource that. So think of a publicly traded company. Most people know Apple. Tim Cook is the CEO of Apple. He is one of the highest paid CEOs in the world, and rightfully so. But the last time I was at the Sherway Gardens Apple store, Tim Cook didn't greet me at the door. And in fact, he wasn't selling me a new iPhone, and he wasn't helping me with customer service. And when I phone in, he's not answering the phone, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that really defines how I go about viewing a real estate team. You've got divisions of labor.
Right.
You've got roles and responsibilities. You need to shake in some accountability into the mix. And of course, culture. If you know anything about Apple, Apple has a very strong culture. It's they have fun. When you walk into a store, you will feel that. But you also know they're about the bottom line. And the bottom line in business is about turning a profit. And I always kind of go back to, if I want to turn a really good profit, the formula is not that hard. Surround myself with some great people, create a culture that rewards a wonderful bottom line to everybody that works with us, and the bottom line to the seller or the buyer as well. And man, like, you've got a great recipe. Yeah. But again, I'm going to sit with you guys for the next half an hour, but this is 22 years in the making of an awful lot of mistakes and an awful lot of errors. And if you're not making mistakes, I'm telling you, you're not doing it right. You have to hurry up and fail. You've got to make as many mistakes as you possibly can, and then you've got to right the ship. Yeah. And if you're an agent out there that you're not satisfied with your income, or you think you can do more, then you need to clear the slate. You need to sit down. I like to do it in the morning with no distractions. Leave the house, come to the office. Remax Escarpment Niagara does an amazing job, and probably better than anybody, by providing office space. Go to the basement, lock the door, and think. Like, grab a pen and paper. Think about what it is you want, and then build something that allows you to get there.
Yep.
And I think in all of that you said, which is amazing, and I love every piece of it, you're also looking out for the people that join your team. You're giving them something. You're providing something for them, and you're sharing what you do together as a group and collaborating.
Yeah.
And I think that's really amazing. There are a lot of teams that don't take care of their team members the same way you do. You do have a great culture. I mean, your people are wonderful.
Why don't we talk about that? Because this is a bit of a pet peeve I've got within the team environment in this industry. I always joke, I'll get somebody who'll call up, I want to join your team. And the first thing I go is, okay, well, they've got a pulse and they've got a license. So that doesn't mean that there's an invitation to join the team. And I always go back to the Chicago Bulls, big sports fan here. And if you think of the Chicago Bulls of the early to mid 90s, you had your Michael Jordan, your Scottie Pippen at the helm. You had a Steve Kerr and an amazing point guard. But then you had a coach like Phil Jackson, he was the glue. Upper management everybody serves a role. So when you want to join, in this case, the Regan Irish team, it's not an open invitation. You've got to be able to bring something to the table. Yeah. So if I flip this around for a minute, maybe you're an agent and you're sitting there going, should I join a team? Is a team the right environment for me? I would then be asking questions like, what is the culture like? Is it built to set me up for success? Or is it built to set me up to help the team leader be successful? One of my favorite authors, Jim Collins, has written many great books. Good to Great is probably what put him on the map. He's a Stanford business professor. Fascinating guy, very close with his wife and his family. And in Good to Great, he talks about, well, what makes a company good? What makes a company great? And it always starts with leadership. And he references, there's a term in his book called a genius, or the genius with 1,000 helpers. And the genius is defined in our industry as the team leader. And the 1,000 helpers, or as I liken it to, respectfully, minions that come underneath the team leader and ultimately support the leader. So understanding a business model, and this is a challenge for all the team leaders out there too. I'm not calling you a bad team leader by any stretch, but I am challenging you to think about the way you look at your business. If you want a great and enduring company, do you have a supportive environment that filters down and out horizontally to your team, as opposed to just a vertical ladder, right, with you at the top? And I think the more you can make your business horizontal as opposed to vertical, the greater success everybody is going to see, because the formula isn't that difficult. If you can help people around you succeed and you take a little bit of monetary piece of that, you're gonna do really well. There's a great quote by Peter Gilgan, who founded Mattamy Homes. And if you know anything about Peter, at the end of the day, he's a bean counter. He's a chartered accountant. And his formula to be one of Canada's billionaires is this simple: little bit, lots. Yeah. So at a big scale, help your team sell as many houses as you possibly can. they get a big chunk of the pie and you take a small chunk of the pie. But at scale, that adds up and
Yeah.
everybody wins.
And I think, you made the comment about team leaders getting in, and the thing I found is, because I've done a couple of team leader coaching series, is that when I start talking to these team leaders, is they didn't plan on starting a team, right? You had that, because you said it early on, you had this concept of, from your dad, saying you got to run it like a business. And as much as we get, when a new agent comes in, there's myself, there's another manager works with the new agents, and we'll say, you're running your own business. And so I want you to run it like a business. But a lot of agents, they just get hustling, they get busy, and then they go, I can't do it. Like you realize that. And so they bring people on, but they didn't plan how to structure the team, how to build the things. They just go, I just need a body. And I think what's interesting is that any of the conferences I've been to, when they have big teams up there on the stage, just about every single one of them said, yeah, I started a team, then I had to blow it up and start over, and they did it right the second time. They put in systems, they thought about it, they planned it. See, you've done that. You already had that mentality where a lot of them don't, right? And you've seen that too, Lynn.
Oh, yeah, 100%. What I'm thinking here, though, is Matthew's way of making a team was probably for a lot different reasons than some team leads do.
Yeah.
Some team leads are completely control freaks, with all due respect, and they think they're the only ones that can do something properly. They're the only one. And so instead of building, supporting, and nurturing each of the agents or the admins on their team so they can do a lot, so you can get a little bit of that a lot.
That's a great point.
That is where they're missing it. They think they got to do it all. You can't, and you can never be the smartest person in the room.
No,
That's
and-
another big mistake, and they think they're the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, and you actually brought up a great. I had a mentor of mine, Deborah Harris, teach me a lesson.
Good friend of mine, too.
Yeah, she's got a brain for real estate, but I remember she was consulting with our team at year end one year, and she called me out in the room. She goes, this is about 10 or 12 years ago. She goes, Matthew, just because you do it one way doesn't mean everybody else should. And it was, the light switch went off in my head. I'm like, she's absolutely right.
Yeah.
There's a reason there's so many different restaurants out there, because there's chefs that cook and prepare food differently than the next person. Life would be pretty boring if we all did things the same
Here's
way.
another way to say that. Everybody does it a different way, but you all get on the bus.
You all get on the bus.
You're all going to get on the bus, but everybody gets on the bus in a different way.
Yeah.
And I work with Deborah Harris a lot. She and I wrote a lot of programs together.
Yeah.
And she was brilliant. And it was those simple little things, like, everybody's going to get on the bus, but they're going to get on it a different way.
Yeah. Eric, you had reminded me a minute ago on it's sometimes a taboo subject for some people. So here comes the question. Why do some teams or some agents succeed? And why do the vast majority of teams and agents not succeed? And I'm basing that comment off of the data on the Toronto Real Estate Board data. And I won't quote it, but most of the people with a license don't make enough money to retire one day. So I think if you're an agent and you're listening, and you might be sitting there going, been in the business 3 years, 5 years, it's not going the way I wanted it to, thinking of joining a team. I think before you get down the road of the team, you really got to look at yourself. So I learned a lesson years ago that I had a problem with something, and this person challenged me to go look in the mirror. So go home, shut the bathroom door, and have a serious conversation with the person staring back at you in the mirror, because your circumstance, whether you're on a team or not on a team, probably isn't why you're not succeeding or not where you want to be. And generally, you don't have a big enough why or a big enough purpose or a big enough goal. And Simon Sinek wrote the book Start With Why. It's a wonderful way to begin that conversation in your mind and say, like, well, what am I shooting for here? Like, what is my What is my goalpost? There's a wonderful author who wrote The Psychology of Money. His name is Morgan Housel. I strongly recommend listening to him being interviewed by Tim Ferriss back in 2023. But he talks about the financial goalpost. And if you think of real estate, we wake up in the morning, we go to bed at night, we do not collect a paycheck every other Friday, we don't have benefits, we really have no safety net. No. So I interpreted it that set a financial goalpost. And you work towards that. Now, your goalpost may not be financial. Maybe you've got a spouse that's doing just fine. Maybe this is a second career for you. So your goalpost might be spend more time with kids, buy a house in the south of France, sail around the world, like whatever that might be. But if it's not written down and if it's not in your subconscious, you're never going to get where you want to go.
No, exactly.
That's why we do written goals.
Right, you do written
because
goals.
They have to be on paper.
And I think as a team, if you're a team leader or somebody higher up in a team, even at your level within the brokerage, it's our responsibility to not create those dreams for people, but to bring it to their attention that, I can tell you to go prospect more. I can tell you to go do more open houses. Heck, I can tell you to start smoking cigarettes and quit drinking. But unless you have a reason to do that, you're never going to do it. Which means no matter how good my team is, matter how good our infrastructure is, et cetera, you're never going to win. And that's why if I go back to agent, pulse, and a license, it's like, that's not what I care about. I want to know who you are. And what do you make
have an
of?
entry level for your people coming on your team.
Yeah, you've got to hit some benchmarks.
Yeah, so when people call me, and people call me all the time, going, I'd like to be on Matthew Regan's team. And I go, okay. Well, do you know, he's got a benchmark for this. You need to be doing some stuff. So do you want to share where your benchmark is? Or roughly, within reason. I know you don't want to give too many secrets away, but.
No, and it's not even about trade secrets because you can teach somebody to be there's one thing you can do and one thing you can't do. You can't teach a human being to be a great person.
No.
You either are or you are not.
Right.
And when I say great person in the confines of, say, interviewing somebody, I can have a wonderful human there, but if they don't have the ingredients that I think, like grit and determination, they could be really nice and friendly and helpful, but I can't teach you to be a great person. I can teach you to be a really great agent. So on one hand of the spectrum, you might have a 15-year veteran who's peaked out at $500,000 in GCI, wants to get to 750 and subsequently $1 million. Then I can help you get there. Alternatively, you might have somebody 2 to 3 years in the business. We generally won't hire anybody without 2 to 3 years in the business. If you're a great person, I can help you get there. It's somewhat unfair where you don't hire young new agents, but it's like they would make the argument, how do I get experience? But it's not house league. We take our business very seriously. We do big numbers and we have big responsibilities to clients. I know of a new agent that just got their first listing. It's a $700,000 listing, and respectfully, I kind of go, what was that seller thinking? You're about to place your largest asset in the hands of a new agent. I'm sorry, unless they come out of wealth management or they've managed big accounts over the years, I don't see how that's protecting your interest. And I can put my hand in the air and say there'll be a lot of people that will disagree with me, probably agents that will disagree with me, but that's my attitude towards the business that we practice. We take people's money very, very seriously. They've worked hard to get where they are, and this is often their biggest asset in a tax-free investment. So experience matters when you come to my door, and it's not always so much about did they produce at such and such a level. It's the old Bill Belichick of the New England Patriots. He was famous for taking a mediocre player on another team, saw something in them, and helped them rise above mediocrity, and they go on to win countless Super Bowls. Yeah,
that's a great talent that you have, and Alex has as well. And the blending of the two teams, to me, it's just a super. It's crazy good. It's crazy fun and great crazy good, how the two teams and all the people are blending together for a similar goal. But again, Matthew, you said it, that comes from the leadership at the top.
Yeah.
And that comes from how you set the goals and set the whys for all these people,
Yeah.
and how they see where they're going with that.
Yeah.
I think that's the floor plan you've given them.
Well, I'm going to say that just the way you said it, I would say he's not giving them the why. He's helping them find their
the
why.
He's pulling it
Because you
out.
can't give it to them.
No.
Right? They have to come up with
Right.
it.
He's helping them find it, and well, not find it, but develop it.
Yeah. And that's
And
the
that
key.
changes over your lifetime too.
Oh,
Your
for
why
sure.
today is maybe different than your why was before.
Yeah.
So you have different things. But the important thing is to always have a why, is
Yeah.
to know why you get up in the morning and do things.
Yeah.
And to me, that is giving them the system
Yeah.
that allows them to thrive. And I know that when I look at why teams fail, they fail because lack of leads, lack of systems, lack of leadership.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. And again, they didn't plan it. And I think also is that, and I use the phrase, I know it's kind of corny, but I go, it's the difference between a one-night stand and a marriage, is that I'm going to ask a lot more questions. I'm going to go a little bit deeper with that person I'm looking to marry, right? And it's the same thing when you're looking for somebody to join a team, you want them to be long-term. So just asking a couple of questions, going, hey, I like you, you like me, okay, let's bring you on. But did I even look to see if they'd be a good fit? Are they going to take away from the culture?
That's an
Are they
interesting.
going to be toxic? Right?
Yeah, and that's interesting. You bring that up because you can throw all the quotes you want. Warren Buffett would say, "Time invested in the market is your best return." And so if you're on a team right now and you're kind of thinking of leaving the team, which I think is a very natural question. We as humans find ourselves, whether we're dating, whether we're in a marriage, could be friends, it could be in this case a business environment. You just have to be careful that the grass. I had somebody once say to me, Jeff Nethercott had a great line. He goes, "The grass may be green, like it may be a different shade of green on the other side. Just make sure it goes with your outfit, right? Like it may not."
Or fertilize your own grass.
Well, and that's
Yeah.
what I think this comes
They're
down
watering
to.
Yeah.
it a little bit more over there. You need to water your grass a lot more, right? And put
Yeah.
more into your team.
Yeah,
And I think that, getting back into the team building is that something that you've done is where you've put stuff back into the team. And as I say, you said it earlier, and I say it all the time, is you have to show the value. So for me, because I talk to a lot of the teams, I get a lot of the people that come off the bigger teams end up coming to me for help them get started on their own, if they're going on their own. But what they didn't see, they weren't seeing the value in the team, right? And part of it is, and you also said it, is you ask, what do they bring to the team? So when somebody comes to me, brand new agent, and going, hey, what are the splits and do I get leads? I'm not interested in you. Now, are you looking to give? What do you bring to the table? And I'll share what what we're going to bring to the table. But we both have to bring something to the table in order for this to work.
Yeah.
And if there's value, if you provide value to your team members and you're transparent about it, like you have to let them know, this is what I'm doing. Here's sometimes it's what's the cost. Do you understand that this is costing X amount of dollars?
Yeah.
If you go out on your own, you're going to have to foot this bill.
So
that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and I
right?
think that kind of segues nicely or parlays into a topic that came up a minute ago about teams that blow up. There's no shortage of teams that blow up. If I go back to my publicly traded company mindset, very few companies at that level blow up and survive. I think what's different in real estate is generally the business is driven through one or two people. The team lead. So it's got some legs, it can reinvent, and on it goes. But that's not a healthy way to run a business.
No.
So why I think that was an interesting segue, Eric, is confronting the brutal facts is a very interesting concept in business. So if you're going on that date, maybe it's the 5th date, you like the person sitting across from you, things are getting serious. it's time to confront the brutal facts. Do you want kids? Where do you want to live? Where do you see yourself in 15, 20, 100, 50 years? So in your business, whether you're a team leader with a large team or maybe you're a joint venture, you're in business with a spouse or a friend, time to probably sit down, crack open a bottle of wine, and confront the brutal facts. And what I've learned over the years, so much good comes from very difficult conversations. And you have to just shut your mouth and you have to listen.
Yep.
You don't have to accept everything, but chances are the people that are delivering the feedback to you, if you've created a safe space for them to deliver that, really good things happen. And when we merged, like a merger and an acquisition is a very difficult thing to pull off in any industry. But you're going to have differences of opinions, not only from the two key players, but the people around you. They see things differently, which is healthy. They have a different mindset, which is healthy. And if you're willing to listen, not necessarily overnight, but good things can come from that. If I don't know what is broken, I won't know how to fix it.
That's right.
If I know that something is broken, I may not get it fixed right away, but I'm going to work towards that because I care about the health of my business. By doing that, by having difficult conversations, it limits the downside and probably does not cause, in this case, a real estate team to implode or blow up.
You've got the greatest blended family, and that's basically what it is. You know, there was a relationship and a love affair and an agreement, and then you had to figure out how to get all these kids and all these kids together and work together, and they're very different.
Yeah.
So it's very amazing, and it's so wonderful to watch the culture and the change and the fun infuse, and a little bit from this side and a little bit from this side, and it comes together into one quite nicely. But again, I have to compliment you and Alex on that, because that comes from the top, and that comes from your vision and how you project it.
It does for sure, and I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say, in our case, you can have two people that think they're wonderful leaders and you're placing the best interests of people around you at the front. If the people around you don't feel it, see it, watch it, it's all for naught.
Yes.
Yep.
And I think if you're a team leader and you do have the guts to confront the brutal facts with your team, you probably don't want to be the one in the room. They just may not feel they can be as open, so you could hire a third party to come in and help you with that. But where I'm going with this is, when you find feedback that you don't like, and I'm learning from experience, I'm speaking from experience, I used to sweep it under the rug. And I can think of countless times where it came back to bite me. You know, it was just the easy thing to do. And now I refuse to do it. If I've got a problem, I'm going to speak up. If someone's got a problem, I want them to feel they can speak up. We may agree to disagree, but generally, even in that scenario, something good's coming from it.
It's funny, I use that same feeling when agents have a problem with a client. And I've always said that if you deal with the problem or you listen to their problem, sometimes they just want to be heard.
Yeah.
But if you do that with people, I think always something good comes from it. A better understanding, a closer bond. It's seems counterintuitive, but the more you deal with the problem and not sweep it, the better resolution and the stronger the bond will be between the people that are involved. Agents are always surprised at that, but it really is a good philosophy to take away. Yeah.
And so, out of curiosity, how often do you get together and have these conversations? Because I know there's a number of agents out there leading teams going, hey, some of them want to do the weekly meetings, some of them I don't really want to, but because you're running it like a business. And, I remember I saw a guy, I forget his name now, Horst, I think was his first name. He was with the Ritz-Carlton. He wrote, he was at a leadership summit. He had 2 years in a row and talking about the new gold standard. That's what they created. And they'd have meetings every day with their people, and they go over, here's our core values, and they would recite these things and repeat them. And then some people are doing weekly, and some people don't want to have meetings, but you got to have some sort of regular communication in order to have the conversations you're talking about. So how do you do it?
Yeah, I do it a couple of ways. I think a team meeting is vital to the health of a business. It would kind of be like, do you go home and eat dinner with your wife and in my case, my wife and kids every night, or am I eating fast food and avoiding being at home? There's a healthy way to do things and there's not. So what I've always maintained about team meetings is that it is on me to create an environment and a space where you want to show up. You're not showing up because you're afraid of being reprimanded. You're showing up because you want to, which then puts the onus on me to provide high-level content, an educational component, and then I'm a firm believer in a collaborative component. So if you want feedback from your team, you need to ask them questions, and then you need to stop talking, you need to listen.
Yeah.
And then you need to let them banter, and then I banter, and then I'll ask you an opposing question, and now where we find ourselves is in very engaging dialogue on a particular topic that's either going to help us move forward or not. So we host team meetings once every 2 weeks. They are on Monday mornings. I don't believe in a meeting at the end of the week. It's Friday in July. I do not want to be in the office if I don't have to. And if we're coming off a long weekend, we actually skip a week. It's just I'm not hosting a meeting on a Tuesday morning when it's a short week, they've got things to do.
And sorry, how many people do you have?
Everyone.
No, sorry. What's the size of your team in terms of members?
There'd be
So
about
our audience knows.
Yeah, there's about 18 agents, and there'll be about seven to eight admin staff that would be in that meeting. And then the Confront the Brutal Facts is interesting. I've done that. I do that every 2 years. So 4 years ago, we did it for the first time, did it 2 years ago, and we'll look to do it early into 2026 because at that point, we will have been 1 year as a new company. I do it every 2 years on purpose. One, it takes time to truly implement a new idea. So if a brutal fact comes back to me, we sit around and we go, yep, that needs to be addressed. A lot of these things they're like moving the Titanic. The Titanic from the standpoint that I'm trying to give you a real life example where brochures. We were wasting a lot of money on printed brochures. Our team loved it. Why? Because the agents loved it. Why? Because the client loved it. And I'm kind of going, well, how much do they really like it? And we ended up taking it away and we went digital. We didn't lose a single listing.
No.
We didn't lose a single agent. Our listing presentation was better. The dialogue changed, and we had this ripple effect of really good things to the point that I remember getting feedback on more than one occasion. I appreciate that you guys don't kill trees, right? Like
Exactly.
we're all different.
Yeah.
But that took over a year to kind of see it through because I can say tomorrow we'll address this, but we're not going to have real feedback on something as big as the Titanic for at least 12 to 18 months. So I like to do them every 2 years.
Okay.
In terms of a person on your team that becomes obvious is not a good fit.
Yes.
Or say makes some egregious mistakes. How are you with that?
Egregious mistakes, there's a very short fuse.
Yeah.
It just comes back to everything I've already said. It's a business. It's a client who's put a lot of trust in us. I don't have a lot of bandwidth for that. It's not to say you're fired on the spot, but generally speaking, you know enough about that person's character leading up to that point. Now, on the flip side, let's talk about performance. I remember Chris Leader teaching me this. It's funny. It was due Friday, but it'll arrive Monday. The following week, you won't get it.
Yeah.
The following week, you won't get it. And then the fifth week, you'll get the resignation letter. And where I'm going with that is it takes a lot of the pressure off of me to have to sit someone down and go, Eric, you've really been underperforming. It's time for you to go. Like, I don't want to do that. Nobody wants to do that. But in a backwards kind of way, I think it exposes the person to their own vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
So when I quit something, it exposes me for better or for worse. And I hope that it actually helps them later on in their career. The other thing which I love is it creates a big degree of transparency within the business. So imagine you're in a team setting, there's 30 some odd people. Why did so-and-so leave? Why are they no longer on the team? 7 or 8 times out of 10, you're going to be able to say, well, I know Matthew didn't fire them. he probably had some element of coaching in there, some element of accountability and help in there. They didn't just wake up one day and walk out the door. And what I like about that is it sends a positive message to the team that we're always going to try. Like, unless they break the law, we're always going to try to help them get better. But it comes back to the why. I can want it all I want, but I can't want it more than that individual.
I used to say that for my kids all the time. I can't want more for you than you want for yourself.
There you go.
I'll say to agents, I'm not going to chase you.
No.
Because if I want it more than you, then there's a
There's
problem.
a problem.
Right? If I'm
Yes,
coaching.
exactly
So,
right.
but I like the checklist
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
something that when I'm
do
working
that.
with agents, is
You
a
do that.
30, 60, 90 day for when somebody gets onboarded. So the first 30 days getting used to the systems. The second set of 30 days is you're implementing and you're trying to, get it down and really make it a habit. And then the last 30 days is that mastery.
Yeah.
The idea is that, so each list it's smaller. Each 30 days, that list is smaller, but there's checklists. And at the end of the 30 days, you're meeting with that agent and they're going, and lo and behold, it's the same as 3-month probation in the corporate world, right? So 30, 69 days. So you're checking off, and we get together and we haven't checked off a lot of boxes.
Yeah.
In the next 30 days, we haven't checked off a lot of boxes. You're already realizing you're not a good fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
It's the same thing with
Same
some
thing.
of the courses.
Yeah.
They show up anxious and get everything done the first 4 or 5 weeks. By week 7, usually week 7, week 8 is when, if you're going to quit, they quit. They just stop showing up. And once they give themselves permission not to show up, then they give themselves permission again not
But
to
it
show
comes
up.
back to the why.
It always
And
comes
they
to the
don't have
why.
a strong enough or a
Yeah.
compelling enough why.
Yeah, to do it.
Yeah, I learned that early
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Some great things there.
No, this
Good
has
things.
been amazing. We really appreciate your time. Is there anything that we haven't brought up? I always like to ask people, anything we haven't brought up that you think would be very pertinent to the audience?
Not necessarily. I think if you're a team leader, I challenge you to confront the brutal facts. It'll be worth it. I think if you're an agent out there thinking of joining a team, start with your why. And if you're an agent already on a team and you're wondering if the grass is greener, do your homework. Don't be shy to go and interview with other teams. And I think to anybody that's either on a team or not on a team, if you can't recite your team's business model in 2 to 3 sentences, there's a problem.
Yeah.
There's a big problem. And there's probably a lot of listeners scratching their head going, I got no idea what my team's
What does he mean by that?
Right. And you probably have some team leaders going, what's a
he
business model?
What's he talking about?
Then I would really suggest you go back to the drawing board. And what's the old saying? There's never a better time than the present
Yeah.
to sharpen your axe. Like, it's a business. Have fun with it, build it, grow it, and make people around you
But
successful.
it's a business. It's a business, and you're responsible in a large part for those people and how they do and how they perform.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Thanks for having me.
yeah.
No, you're
it's
welcome.
great.
Any last thoughts from you, Lynn?
No, I think wonderful. Lots of great things there.
No, this is what I'll say to all of you is, what Matthew is saying is treat this like a business, approach it from that standpoint, know your why, know what you want to do with your business, with your life, and make those decisions accordingly, right? Because that's going to help form your business down the road and allow you to grow and scale. And we thank you so much again for your time. We thank you, our listeners, for joining us again. And we'll see you on the next episode of the Business of Real Estate podcast with Lynn Hoffmann and Eric Johnson.
Thank you.